Hey everyone, welcome back to another live episode of Google Workspace Recap, a Tab Geeks Network show. Each week we take you through everything announced by Google Workspace, discussing the updates of the week and other relevant news and announcements. My name is Jesse Nolan, my co-host is Steve Larson, and we're here to help you keep up. Today we are proud to welcome the Google ChromeOS Certification team to discuss the new Professional ChromeOS Administrator Certification, how to study for and pass it, as well as learning how it was developed, what to expect after you pass it, and answering your questions. It is my pleasure to introduce Leah Coleman, who for the past 5 years has led the Global ChromeOS Partner Training and Enablement team. Previously, she worked for 5 years at Apple in Enterprise Partner Management and Development. Leah is passionate about providing unparalleled learning experiences for partners, and after working on Windows devices and MacBooks for 10 plus years, absolutely loves her Chromebook. And don't tell her she uses a Mac because she'll bite your head off. No, just kidding. We were riffing on that before the show. Also collaborating with peers and partners in Workspace, and will never go back. Speaking about her Mac, of course. Welcome to the show, Leah from Sydney, Australia.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. Thanks to everyone who's joining the live stream.
Yeah, our pleasure. And Saj, or Sajed, Saj as he is referred to, better known as Saj, has been with Google for over 8 years. The first few years, Saj was working to launch Android Enterprise and has been working with channel partners for over the last 4 years, helping the ecosystem grow with ChromeOS. Saj, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. Pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone on the live stream. Hope everyone's well.
And it's pretty obvious where Saj is hailing from with the Google NYC shirt over there, representing the
a big yo from New York.
Oh yeah, and the best comfy Chrome pillow swag in the background there. Love it. And of course, you all know me and Steve from over 100 episodes of Workspace Recap in a row. Steve, in an airport. Jeez, welcome to the show.
It is. It's over 100. Yeah, we did 100 end of last year. We haven't missed a week.
Wow.
No matter where we've been, we've managed to broadcast every week for just over 2 years, our third season.
Oh my gosh, good for you.
It's almost the longest thing I've ever done.
That is awesome.
Pretty close to.
Except raise children. Yeah. You've got that.
Right. Yeah. I mean that. Right. That's going to be the longest thing, I'd imagine. Yeah.
And we've never met in person. Totally remote show.
No,
Really?
we've not. We were in the same space at the Googleplex in Mountain View many, many years ago. And I think we knew of each other. We had never met, and we're there for it was one of the last Google Workspace events prior to Next starting, and we were there. I think it was just after Miles Ward had joined Google. He did a great talk talking about one of the big tech companies that had just moved over to Google Cloud, and we were in the same space at the same time for a couple of days in a row, and but never met.
Wow, I love that.
And I think Jesse invited me to one of his conferences out in California when I was working in London, and I couldn't make it. I was about to fly out there, and just couldn't make it the last minute or something. And here we are.
That's great.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shows you the power of remote work. You can really do it and collaborate well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Leah, you were talking, or Jesse had mentioned your love of Chromebooks. I'm curious to know which so far has been your favorite one that you've used, or that you haven't maybe used enough but would think it could be your favorite.
Sure. So I'm a bit torn because I've used quite a few. Today I'm calling in for my Acer Chromebook Spin, which I quite like because it has all the ports I need. And then also the Dragonfly, which I know is really, really new, but I've had the opportunity to work on that device as well. So I think for me, it's less about the hardware and more about the hardware paired with the software. I think what makes me love Chromebook so much is Chromebook and Workspace combined. That's why I think when I look back on other devices and software that I've used in the past, I just feel like Chromebook and Workspace is the most intuitive experience that I've had. And it took a minute to learn because it's really different from what I've used in the past. But once you get past that, for me, first week or two, you just are so much more efficient and productive and so much more collaborative. It's really changed the way I think about work and work with my colleagues. So I think it's really the pairing of the two for me that's made this my favorite experience.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Nice.
And I'll add to that, I can just pick up any device that, any Chrome device that I have around. I left my laptop at the office last week, and it's like, all right, well, I got another Chromebook here. I'll borrow my wife's Chromebook and log as
Exactly.
myself, and back to work. There you go.
Exactly.
Instantly.
In fact, the
Love
other
it.
day I was in the office, I didn't have my Chromebook and did the same thing. We have a great loaner program at Google, and a lot of our customers or partners have adopted this as well, where you can just grab a Chromebook from a stack, you use your security key, log in as yourself. Next thing you know, everything you were looking at home is just
Yeah.
right there. It's
I
pretty magical.
Grab and go.
Grab and go.
I nearly had a commit to the GitHub repository for that project, and the Googler at the time couldn't get my commit committed, and he had to do it himself. And I was like, oh, that's gonna be like my first major open source project that I committed to, and I was like, it's a little bummed that it didn't happen, but oh well.
One day.
So close. What about you, Saj? What's your favorite?
I'm an avid Chrome box user. If you saw my screen right now and I showed you how many tabs I had open, you'd be like, "What the hell are you doing?" But a Chrome box can help push the amount of
I
stuff
know
I'm
the
doing.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And I also like having multiple monitors. I'm on a larger monitor now, and the Chromebooks can help push that. And the lovely video we were commenting on earlier, do that. But
Looks great.
to answer your question, for me, I'm gonna take a political response here because I work with all the partners. So if I favor one, I don't want anyone to get mad at me. But I am a big fan of the Lenovo C14 that just came out. Just because I can throw my backpack and when I'm commuting in on the train to the city, it takes a pounding. I don't have to worry about it. It just works well, and it's durable for at least the way I use it. And I have two young kids, and they'll boot me off and they'll log on with their school accounts and do their homework, and they spill stuff on it all the time, and it keeps going. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, those Lenovo's have some pretty good big build qualities in terms of getting them into like business environments and not having anything happen to them. They're pretty good.
yeah. I'm,
And even
I'm
more
also
so
a
on
big
the
fan of the
education side, they're pretty solid.
I'm also a big fan of the trackpad. Prior to Google, I worked in finance, and all the products were Lenovo, so kind of got used to that trackpad and the clicking and all the good stuff. And just I prefer that one for some reason.
Have you tried the HP one yet, Saj? The Dragonfly?
Absolutely, yes. It was a great device.
That's the trackpad. That's the one
Oh,
for me.
the
Haptic trackpad on a
haptic.
Chromebook. Oh, so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. It's a great device. Don't get me wrong. And so I love that. I have that device in my room. So whenever my wife is knocked out, I'll flip that one open and do my work on it. But it's a little too fragile for the way I use it. Right. Last thing I want to do is a broken screen or a broken hinge.
Yeah,
And then they're not cheap
exactly.
either. Right. I don't want a Corp Edge
Ooh.
coming at me saying you broke all these Chromebooks.
Yeah, not to. I mean, it seems like one of the best HP or one of the best Chromebooks I had many years ago, it was 4 or 5 years ago, I was in London. It was one of the HPs,
Hmm.
and that was one of the downsides of it is that it was not great for our field workers, our salespeople that were traveling all the time. It looked great, like if you have it, at home all the time, it was fine. But for commuters, it would kind of fell apart after a year or so, which was unfortunate because it's just such a great model. And I forget the exact model of it, but
Yeah.
it was one of their relatively newer designed ones, the silver ones, and looked
Yeah.
great. But yeah,
I will say that
You
Chromebooks have
bet.
come a long way in terms of what they used to be in terms of size, different options, different, from aluminum to plastic. There's all different variations now. So they've definitely come a long, long way.
That's true.
I like pulling out my original Google CR48 over here, one of
Wow.
60,000. Still works.
Wow.
Doesn't run the latest software, that's for sure not. I don't know how I got one.
oh, you
I
mean
was like
it's not getting updates
19.
anymore? Really? No updates?
No, it doesn't get
Oh.
updates anymore. It reached the maximum
It still
the
works.
update date
It
there.
still goes though,
It's
right?
like
Still
It
works.
still
it's
works
like
for you.
Powers
Chrome
up. Yep.
Yeah.
Chrome version
Doesn't
12
run
or
very
something like that,
well,
right? What
but
is it?
I
Chrome version
forget. Yeah,
15?
I'll have to
What are you
crack
on?
it open later, and I gotta find the charger for it. I've had it behind me as part of like the museum, but I gotta find the charger for it and plug it up. We've got some comments in here. Mike Webster's watching this on an HP 1030, still awesome, and
Hmm.
Colin says he used an Asus C100 for many years, but recently got a Lenovo Duet 3, the 8 gig version, and he loves the small size and power. Wonderful portable productivity device. Totally agree there.
Yeah.
And yeah, keep the comments coming, folks. I've got an eye on it over here. I am actually using a MacBook Pro, but I'm powering a large monitor here, so I've got plenty of room to have the feed and the chat and the notes, and I can see all of the conversation, the chats that come in over here. So drop your comments and let us know your questions. And with that, I would like to turn the floor over to our expert team. You don't want to actually hear from Steve and I. We're boring. You want to hear from the Googlers here. Let's talk about the certification.
Awesome. Thanks so much. It's really great to be here. First and foremost, just want to thank you both for having us, and everyone who's joining from the live stream. Thank you. It's so cool to be here, have you with us, and then for folks who will watch afterwards to learn more about the professional ChromeOS Administrator exam and certification. So Jesse introduced me a bit earlier. I'm Leah Coleman, and I lead our global partner training program. And recently we launched the first ever professional ChromeOS Administrator exam. It's really, really critical for our business. I think first and foremost, Google wants to just congratulate and celebrate everyone out there who's managing Chromebooks with the Google Admin Console. So this is a way to put that stamp or, the badge on your LinkedIn, on your resume, even on your business card. I just learned in Japan that's quite popular. So for folks here, if you want to start that trend, I might try to start getting that going. But it's just a way to showcase to your colleagues and to friends and so forth that you have this badge from Google, that you've earned the certification. And again, just celebrating the success and achievements of everyone out there managing Chromebooks with the Google Admin Console. So that's first and foremost. And then also, we just wanted to think about how do we build a community of experts so that we can have more self-serving across the globe, because there are Google administrators, all over the world. I was amazed when we put this exam out to beta, or beta, as they say in London, where I'm based. We just asked our ecosystem, through other Googlers who work directly with partners and customers, do you have some folks who might be interested in taking the beta? And the response was overwhelming. I mean, I was just shocked. I couldn't believe it. Hundreds upon hundreds of people wanted to participate. And so that showed me that the market was really hungry for something like this. And we had tremendous feedback on the exam itself, and just not just on the experience and how it's set up, because it's two-part. You have multiple choice and a hands-on lab, which I'll discuss later. But just the excitement around being able to celebrate that folks have spent a lot of time learning the admin console, and now they have a way to showcase that skill set. So that's sort of first and foremost the reasons for building the exam. I don't know, Saj, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a technical point of view on it. I work with all the channel partners across the ecosystem, and a lot of folks come to me and will say, "Hey, I would love to take it, one step further and learn a little bit more about the admin console. Right now, we just do the bare minimum, just administer the device, get users set up. This exam is a great way on building that breadth of knowledge, right? Being able to understand the ins and outs of it and preparing for it, and you'll realize how much more you can do with the admin console, more than just set it up once. You can do setting up in kiosk mode. You can block websites. You can do a lot more things, which this exam prepares you to do. Being a better administrator, not to say you aren't a good one, but just being an administrator extraordinaire and unlocking more value from your purchase with Chrome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think too. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, I mean, you talked about, being able to do a lot of stuff in the admin console, and that's come a long way from the early days of being able to, have a handful of settings within Chrome, what you could do. We're now, in the hundreds. Is it up to over 200 now settings within the admin console that you can configure?
We're probably approaching 700 now.
Is it 7 now? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember when it was over 200, and it was like, okay, that's a lot, but 700 settings, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting up there. So the admin console allows you to control the browser, the device. It's a lot more stuff you can do in there than ever before.
Yeah, and more coming for sure. Definitely a product we're really invested in at Google. And so, yeah, that was part of the thinking around the CERT, both from the scale and achievement side and then the technical side as well. And I'll just add to what Saj said and say it's for partners, of course, because we want partners to be able to showcase that they are certified to deliver the services to their customers around the Google Admin Console. But it's also for customers. So if you're the administrator at a school or a business, this is a great way to earn that badge, or just the general public if you're interested, in technology and you want to earn the certification. So it's meant to be agnostic from EDU or enterprise. It's meant to just test, do you have the ability to effectively manage Chromebooks with the Google Admin Console? And it's for someone who has about 12 plus months experience. So it is at the professional level, meaning you're not coming to learn per se as much as you are to show that you have a certain skill set. Certainly, though, what Saj said is still relevant in that while you're taking the exam, you might realize, oh, I didn't notice that or know that the admin console could do these different things. But certainly we're testing your knowledge so that you can showcase this skill set. I might actually, if it's okay, Jesse, just share some data on the impacts of certifications broadly. Okay, cool. I'll just share my screen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks so much. This is just generic data on impact of certifications. Just want to make that clear. This isn't about Google cert specifically. This is just certifications at the professional level specifically, which I'll talk a bit more about what that means later on. But I think it's interesting to share this with folks. So this is just showing after employees achieve an IT certification. So really thinking about the individual managing the Google Admin Console now at a school or business. 10% received a raise, 8% received a promotion, 15% got new job offers, 10% found they had fewer errors in their work, 32% feel they're more engaged, 27% thought they were faster performing at their job, and 49% notice a quality of their work has improved. This next slide that we'll make available afterwards shows how certifications benefit the company overall, the organization. And so 64% of IT decision makers find certified employees deliver over 10K in additional value, 50% closes the organizational skills gap, 46% boost in productivity, and then there's some more data points. I won't read them all here, but 25% reduction in employee turnover and makes hiring easier as well. So I share this because the benefit to being certified is huge, regardless of the certification that you're getting. We, of course, want you to get certified on the Google Admin Console, but there's a real impact and benefit here to individuals and organizations. And then when we think about our partners, of course, because I'm on the partner training team and Saj is looking after partners, we want to make sure that you can show that stamp of approval from Google that you are capable of delivering the services that customers really need around the Google Admin Console, but another number of other things as well. And folks always ask me, even Googlers, they say, well, how'd you come up with these questions? Why these questions? And they're often really surprised to learn the process. I was too, frankly, because I was in more of a supportive role in the beginning and then really became the leader of this exam overnight. So I had to learn myself about this process. And it's really just tremendous. I don't know if folks can see my full screen, but I'm showing a timeline with different achievements along the way that are required for an exam at the professional level. So you start with scoping the exam, then item writing. Item is the technical term for a question. Then you do the beta testing. Then you have what's called a standard setting exercise, and then you finalize the questions that'll make it to GA or general availability. So scoping the exam starts with job task analysis. And what that is sitting down with individuals, both internal at Google and external partners and customers, whose role it is to manage the Google Admin Console, and ask them, what is a day in the life in your role? And after these interviews, which take quite a bit of time actually, to whittle it down to, okay, based on this, and we're building an exam for someone with 12 plus months experience, what are the areas that this exam should focus on? Because it can't be everything, right? So what's really critical to being able to show that you are successful in this role? That then helps us build the exam blueprint, which is actually what folks on this call or out there that'll watch it later who are interested in, hey, what do I study? The exam blueprint's on our website, which I'll show, and that's where you go to understand, well, what is on the exam? So that blueprint comes from the job task analysis where we understand, okay, what are the things that should really be covered? The item writing, I just have to say, I've never seen anything like it. We brought, 15 SMEs, half external, half internal to Google. The external were customers and partners who really are managing the Google Admin Console day to day. We brought them into actually to our Chicago office for a 5-day workshop, 9 to 5. And we said, if we leave here and we've written 120 questions, we'll be delighted. So each of you, we're just hoping you'll write 10 questions this week. And we got these eye rolls like, come on, you think I can't write 20, 30 questions in a week or 40 or 50? This is ridiculous. Of course I can write more than 10 questions in a 40-hour week. But it is so critical that the questions are written in a way that's clear, that don't provide any type of confusion, that are unbiased, that really reflect the exam blueprint and all the job task analysis that we did. And they have to be written so critically that you actually bring in an expert whose sole responsibility is to write standardized exams. I just share that with folks to say that the effort that went into the multiple choice and the lab was no small thing. Then take those questions to beta. So that's the next on the timeline that I'm showing. Sorry again for the folks who can't see it. But again, we were just delighted by the outpouring of responses. We had like upwards of 300-400 people who wanted to participate in the beta. And really, you just need about 50 to get this at that professional level and to make sure the exam is fair, excuse me. After you get the beta results, you do a standard setting exercise with an external vendor. They are essentially statisticians, and their job is just to look at the bell curve of how people who took the exam passed or failed certain questions to decide what's too hard for the exam and what's too easy for the exam. And then we decide on what we call the cut score, which is basically the pass-fail rate. Don't ask me what it is. I cannot share it, but I can tell you it's very, very fair. And so we're delighted to see that people are passing. And we also are okay that maybe you fail your first time, because it just means there's a bit more studying to do. And you just need to maybe look at the blueprint a bit more, spend a bit more time in the admin console. At the end of the day, we're saying to the market, this is a legally defensible professional exam. And so we need to make sure that passing it reflects that this individual has that right skill set. So this vendor helps you analyze the questions that went through beta, and then you pick the ones that finally will go to GA. So maybe I'll pause there and see if there's any questions. I feel like that was quite a bit to cover.
I do have an interesting question here. Of the questions that you initially put into that, you have the ones that made it to the beta exam, and you have the ones that submitted prior to that. So what do those numbers typically look like? Is it we came up with like 300, 400, whittle that down to like 150, and then we end up using like a pool of let's say 125 in the end. What do those kind of numbers typically look like for example?
It's a great question. So it definitely varies, but for us, first, as I said, the SMEs in the room were sort of gawking that they couldn't write more than 10 questions in a week. And actually, they really were only able to write 8. And that's how hard it was. I mean, the wording has to be pristine, right? So we did that SME workshop for the item writing, and then a couple more to get us to about 150 questions. And then the goal is at the end to end up with 80 to 100 if you can. And then the goal is to actually put forward 2, 3, maybe even 4 test forms. So what a test form is essentially Jesse comes to take the exam, Steve comes to take it. Hopefully you get different multiple choice exams. And if you don't pass and you come back a second time, you get a different multiple choice exam. Certainly getting the same exam each time you come, assuming you're within the retake policy, which is the same as Google Cloud. But as you come back to retake it, you shouldn't get the same questions. And so what ends up on the exam is a fraction of what we say is okay for the exam generally, so we can create more test forms. And so the test forms have anywhere from like 20 to 40 questions, depending on how meaty they are. But the idea is to whittle it down and get as many test forms. The other thing I'll mention is you don't stop there, right? Because as Saj mentioned, folks here thought we had 200 policies. Looks like we have 700. So we need to continue to build new questions. We'll seed them into the exam. So you might get a question where you're thinking, that's a funny one. And what we're doing is actually running the beta behind the scenes. So I get a lot of feedback sometimes. Hey, I found a question I found kind of odd. I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to tell this person specifically, but I'll say it here on the podcast. You might be getting a beta question for the next exam form, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that was another thing too. I was curious, how often do those exam questions get updated? Because as you said, the different things that are happening in the admin console and Google in general is evolving so quickly that you design and build this exam over the course of, let's say, a few months, and
Yep.
it's in some way already outdated in a lot of ways, right? It's like, how do you keep up with that, and how often are the exam questions being updated? We know that some of the other like cloud architect exams, those have evolved over the years. We've seen different iterations and versions of those come out. It's taken a couple of years to kind of see those big jumps and changes of what you're expecting from that. But, it sounds like you're kind of sprinkling in some new questions kind of ongoing to at least the Chrome OS exam, it sounds like.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, I literally was touching my arm because I get goosebumps thinking about this because it's both exciting and terrifying. Because if you think about the amount of work that went in just to getting, 2 exam forms and a lab out the door, to think about doing that every 6 months is, it's a huge uplift. So we're hopeful to do it 1 to 2 times a year. And our approach right now is we've just launched English in October. I think the launch date was October 17th. We have already started to seed new questions into English. We then launch in Japanese with everything that first launched in English. And as we get the results back from the beta now that we're already seeding, we'll later go update Japanese so they get new questions with the ones that passed the beta. And then we'll circle back around to write more questions, probably, summer, fall of this year, and then start seeding those through. So it'll be a constant evolution. It's not something you can just launch and be done with, is really the biggest element of it. So we're hyper focused on that. Also, always looking for SMEs who want to help write questions. So if you listen to this podcast, you're like, man, I just really want to be a SME. Let Jesse or Steve know, and they'll connect you to us, because that's a critical part. It's having, you can't just have a bunch of Googlers come together and say, well, these are the questions we would ask, right? You have to have folks who are doing this day to day in real life, business or schools.
I have a couple of questions here from the chat, just in order here. It looks like Rebecca Latimer asked, will the questions be in traditional multiple choice format or DOMC, which stands for discrete option multiple choice?
Great question. Thank you for that. So there are, I don't know. So I think I understand, and I think we have both. Let me explain, and then she can let us know if I've answered the question. So they're all multiple choice for the multiple choice section. And typically there's only one right answer. Occasionally you'll be asked to identify 2 correct answers, but it'll always be clear in the instructions, pick the 2 correct ways or pick the 1 option. And that's part of going back to just standardized test taking and having to, and really striving to make it as fair as possible. You will not be tricked. So I encourage everyone, because I've heard some feedback, oh, I can't believe I got that question wrong. And I say, well, it really said clearly, there is one answer. Pick from below the one answer.
Yeah,
we're not trying to trick you.
The only tricks I ever see, and I see it all the time in the Google exam, and I mean in any kind of standard exams like this, is that the answers are the tricks. Is because there's 2 answers that are almost identical, but there's one difference. So it's not really a trick. It's just more of you have to know what the answer is,
exactly.
Because there's 2 that look very close to being correct, and in a sense it kind of seems like, oh, you're being tricked. You just have to know what that answer is, because oftentimes there are 2 that are very close to being correct, and only one is.
I agree with that, and I think my advice to folks who are studying for and going to take this exam is you get 90 minutes for multiple choice and you get 90 minutes for the lab. If you finish the multiple choice in 10 minutes, that time does not go over to the lab. So it's 90 and 90. So take your time, read each question. There are not that many in the exam form, meaning you have a couple minutes per question to really read it and the answer and make sure that you're selecting the right one. Because again, to your point, Steve, there is only one right option, or if we say there's 2, then there are only 2 right options and the answers are there. Did I answer that question? Maybe just check it with the chat. I want to make sure I got that.
Yep. Rebecca says, thank you. That answers my question.
Fantastic.
So,
thanks,
perfect.
Rebecca. Thank you.
Next, we had Mike Webster. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No. Go
Okay.
with Mike's question.
Mike says, I took the exam on a Windows PC and was unable to find an app in the Chrome Web Store via the platform nor Mac, but it was present on a Chromebook. Prereqs say you can take on Windows, Macs, or Chromebooks.
So
you're
go ahead.
absolutely right. You can take it. When we take that one, Leah, you
Please.
can definitely take it on a Windows, Mac, or Chromebook. But there's some safeguards in place. Chances are that Windows device might be running an emulator or something of that nature that didn't allow you to run the exam on that particular device. So there are a lot of other things that potentially could be the factor, but that's something that I've seen very commonly when I work with channel partners, and they say, "Hey, I can't take the exam." They're running it in parallels, or they're running it in some other mode that's beyond the native OS.
Thanks, Saj, for that. One bit I'll add too is, to be at the professional level, we need to have the exam be proctored. And so you have to understand that we're not running the exam on a Google internal system. We're working with vendors who are best in class in exam delivery, whether online or on a location. So that's their bread and butter. And to make sure folks are, don't have a notebook nearby or another tab open, or, there's safeguards put in place. So it's likely one of those, but certainly it runs on Chromebook, Mac, and Windows. Yeah, thanks, Saj.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah, I think it was it's interesting.
Mike,
I saw his comment there. It's
okay.
Yeah, a little bit more specific. Is Chrome Sign Builder is being deprecated. That's why it probably is not showing up. It was a specific application that it was looking for, and it was Chrome Sign Builder, which is not available really anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that probably in another episode at some point, but some cool things happening there. But you're right, that application was deprecated, and I think working on a different version at some point.
I've seen the hits.
I've
seen some things talking about sign building at other conferences that are coming up. So I feel like something is in the works.
Yeah,
one of our big use cases.
I love it. I mean,
yeah. Yeah,
I had a comment earlier in the show here from Anthony that says he's happy to see the exam has a hands-on component like the old school G Suite admin exam.
Nice.
Yep.
Yes, that was what I was going to mention earlier. Is that I love to see that hands-on component to it, which is great, and that has got to add a whole interesting level of complexity to being able to analyze that, right? And the reason being, us as admins, we would love to have an API for all the admin settings. So how are you doing it? How are you actually going in and analyzing what an admin has just, selected? Because if you can figure out what you selected, can't we figure out a way to assign and set those values? And when can we have that as an admin? I would love to see that. So
I don't know if Saj wants to take the second part of that question.
Yeah, I'm happy to take the second part of that question. Well, you're in luck. If anyone is behind the computer, which I'm assuming you are, if you go on the Chrome developer site, there's a lovely API called the Policy API. That is, full goal is to do the admin console via API. So if you're a partner looking to build a business, manage services, or build some sort of middleware, that is a wonderful API to sort of leverage and to get to know to help manage those settings at scale.
Thanks, Saj.
Very cool.
For the first part of the question, I will say it's definitely one of the hardest parts of having a certification. I have really learned so much from this experience, and it's also the most beloved part from our partners and customers of the exam. So that's why we work so hard to keep that part of it, because it is really difficult. We have a vendor that is genuinely turning on a fresh domain and giving that individual user access to the Google Admin Console. So it's a real environment, and they are able to, just see if what was asked for someone to complete in the lab was actually completed. Since at the end of the day, you either do it or you don't in the lab, right? Like when you're working in the Google Admin Console, you either apply the setting or you don't. And so they're able to see that whatever route that person took to get there, they got there. And so that's the bit there that I can share.
Awesome. I have another question from another Anthony. The first one was Anthony Martini. This is Anthony Godino, I believe. Says, thanks for the live Q&A. Aside from reviewing the one page with the guide/sections, what is the best way to train for the exam? Please let us know of any resources we can turn to. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll just take a second to talk about what we're thinking in terms of preparation for the exam. And then Saj, if you have some sort of ideas for folks, would love to hear from you. So right now we have that exam blueprint, and depending on what you're used to in certification, some certification programs offer more or less training to prepare someone for the exam. That's all we have for now, and there are links to articles and YouTube videos and different places for you to go to just re-up your knowledge on the different areas that the exam covers. We get asked constantly for more, and we are thinking about this. So hopefully next year we'll be able to have maybe some sort of online course where it gives you some example questions that you could expect, and you could pass out of sections, thereby showing you, before you take this exam, it looks like these two areas you should study a bit more. That's one method that we've been thinking through. For right now, we don't have anything but that piece, and so Saj will share some more ideas there. But I think for this moment, we're okay with it because, again, we are testing that you have done this for at least a year, and the questions really do reflect, after you saw just how deep we went into analyzing what questions should be on the exam, the questions really do reflect something that someone should know at a year. So if you're not really working the admin console every day and haven't done that for a year, you should think a bit more about just getting some real practice. But that's from the exam program side. Saj, over to you.
Yeah, I think the best way to prepare for this thing is to just get your hands into the admin console and enroll a Chromebook. Once you do that, you'll see how intuitive it is, right? Like a lot of folks, myself included, I used to be a systems administrator long time ago, and I'm very geared towards the CCNA or the MCP, where you have to grind that on. You have to learn a lot of nomenclature, you have to learn a lot of details. The admin console is a different beast, very GUI driven, very intuitive. So once you get in there and you get your hands wet and you enroll a device and you mess around with a few policies, push out a few apps, the questions just really make a lot of sense. They're just really easy to do. So I don't want to downplay the exam and say it's not difficult. It is. If you haven't been an admin before or played in the console, it's going to be tough. But if you spend a couple of weeks in the console, I'm happy to help you. If you don't have a Chromebook, reach out to me. I will loan you one, and you can return it back to me whenever you want to. But it's pretty easy to use. It's pretty easy once you get used to the platform.
Yeah, I mean, I had an admin, a Google admin that's been an admin for a while. Expected him to pass the exam, and he did not, unfortunately. It's not as easy as you think it might be. It's it could be a little tricky there, I think. So I think that year of hands-on experience with Chrome is definitely critical to have.
Yeah, I was going to ask to clarify that. I'm in the admin panel almost every day, but I'm in lots of areas of the admin panel, not specifically to Chrome. We manage
Chrome
lots of different elements of Chrome devices, and I haven't taken the test yet, so I'm actually curious, how much more I would have to get hands-on and study in order to pass this compared to just my day-to-day managing a general Google Workspace environment for a mid-sized business.
Well, I'll give you two ideas. So first is the exam is free for the rest of this year. So just go try it and see, because anyone here can go register. It's free. We don't have a swag store set up yet, so take the money. We didn't charge for the exam. Buy yourself a hoodie.
Okay.
We're getting there. We're a small but mighty team. But yeah, someone on the cloud team actually made a joke. They just said, "Well, you're not charging for the exam, so the $125 that you would have charged,
That's fair.
Buy a Google hoodie."
Yeah.
But I hear you, everyone out there who wants a swag store. Trust me, we're working on it. But the exam is free, so just go take it, go try. And then the retake policy, there's a short cooling off period, but it's nothing crazy. So, and then it's free again. So I think just this year, go take it, and then during the cooling off period, study a bit more, and you'll have a sense of what you saw and go back and try again. So there's nothing discouraging anyone from just giving it a go. The other part is, if you don't pass multiple choice once you're in the exam, you won't get passed on to the lab. So if you don't pass multiple choice, it'll end for you. And then you can say, okay, I guess I need to do a bit more studying on just sort of the theory and best practices around the admin console. If you do pass multiple choice, you get to pass on to the lab. You could still fail the lab. But the good news is we keep your multiple choice results as they were for you until you retake the exam. So you don't have to go retake the multiple choice piece. So it's really set up in a friendly way to just, if I could leave everyone with one thing, like just go try it, because there's nothing holding you back from giving it a go and learning what's on it. It's not a black box as long as it's free. But it might be interesting if I show the website, because I can kind of walk through where is the exam guide and what to study and how do you register. Okay, cool. So I'll do that.
That was going to be my next question. So perfect transition.
Awesome. So ChromeOS Certification.com is the website. And if you click on register now, it will actually bring you to Web Assessor, which is the system our vendor uses to proctor and deliver the exam. If folks can't see my screen, I'm actually not on our website anymore that talks about the exam. I'm actually where you would go to register to take the exam. And for folks who can't see my screen, there's some scary sentences in red. And this is just saying that you can only have one account per individual. We've only seen it once, but we had someone who, made up a Gmail to log in, failed, and then came back with a Yahoo to take it again, thereby bypassing the retake policy. So, we are on the lookout for those things. Please respect the retake policy. But also, you need a new set of login credentials for the ChromeOS exam. What I mean by that is, if you're someone who's, when I say Web Assessor, you know exactly what that means. You've taken Google Cloud certifications here or other, non-Google certifications on Web Assessor. You probably already know you need a different login for the different exams. So be prepared to create a new login. But coming back to our website, it talks to you about what the exam assesses. So there's some green check marks next to some elements that the exam assesses. And then below, some details about the certification exam. So it's 3 hours. I mentioned 90 minutes for multiple choice, 90 minutes for lab. Those times do not roll over. So take your time with the multiple choice. Again, just calling out here on the website that registration is free until January 2024. So go take that exam. It's available in English, and it should say Japanese coming any day now, but it is coming any day. So that's exciting. The exam format, which everyone knows, multiple choice and hands-on lab, so forth and so on. So folks can go to ChromeOSCertification.com and learn more. When you come to the section about understand what's on the exam, here's the exam guide that we've been talking about this whole time. And when I showed the timeline earlier about what it takes to build one of these exams, this is coming out of the job task analysis and the exam blueprint. So the exam guide is a reflection of that work to say, okay, what's actually going to go on the test? So section 1, for example, asks test takers to perform actions from the admin console. And we have 1.1, which is troubleshooting customer concerns. Considerations include, and then a list of A to I. We then included resources which have videos and different articles. If you click on these, they help you just re-up your knowledge on those areas. So this exam guide has a number of sections that just tell you what to consider and links to videos and articles to help you review. So I think if you have at least 12 months experience working in the Google Admin Console and Chromebooks or Chrome devices, then this exam guide will really help you get well prepared. So I think this is pretty comprehensive and a great place to start, though, of course, we've heard the feedback of, folks would like more, and we definitely want to meet our customers and partners where they are. There's also some information here just on our policies and the retake. So definitely make sure you've read through these, because there's a number of prohibited behavior and certain retake policies. So for example, one I'll call out is if you do not pass an exam, you can take it again in 14 days after the day of your first attempt. So again, go take it. Maybe you don't pass. It's fine. It was free. Study up for 14 days. That's not even a rush timeline, frankly. Make sure you check out the exam guide. Come back and take it. It's still free. And then if you don't pass the second time, then there's longer, what they call cool off periods. But we haven't seen anyone in that situation quite yet. So I'm excited for folks to take a look at this website and dig in a bit more. Any questions about this before I hand it back over?
No, one point from Mike Webster said that a incognito mode is going to be recommended or in private browser, so that you don't have any collisions with the domains.
Yes, thank you for that. Actually, that's a fantastic point.
As well.
Yeah, thank you. It when you log into Web Assessor and you schedule your exam, you'll get a number of communications from that vendor about best practices for the exam. And thank you for the reminder to the folks on the live stream, because it's absolutely true. We say right then and there, best experience is incognito. We're trying to work on improving that and not requiring that, but certainly that's a best practice. If you're feeling savvy, open an incognito window. It makes it a lot easier, because to your point, you have to log out of your user credentials on your admin console and log into the test credentials that are given to you for that lab. It's a great call out. Thank you.
Or use multiple Chrome profiles, which are great also.
Yeah,
similar experience.
I was going to mention that as well.
Which I have. I have many of them. I don't know if I actually broke when cloud browser management rolled out, and you could start to see all of the profiles on a user's device. I had so many that you couldn't see all of my Chrome profiles because they didn't think that anyone had more than 20 Chrome profiles on a single device. And I'm like, why can't I see that 35 that I have on mine? What's going on?
Too funny.
So I don't know if they've increased it. They said they were going to, because they're like, all right, well, we'll increase it to 40. So I don't know if they've done that yet. But
funny. For the lab, you do get issued unique credentials and a login, though. And so that's why the incognito piece is so critical there. So thanks for that shout out.
I was going to ask if there are any communities that people can join for studying for the test. Of course, shameless self-plug, TabGeeks has a Slack community. Everyone is welcome to join and discuss if Google doesn't have one. But if there are more official communities, let us know.
No, I would love that.
You mentioned at the beginning, like building that community.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, thank you, Jesse, for the offer, and certainly encourage folks to take advantage of that offer. We are working on building out a community. We're working on two things. So one is getting a directory so that upon receiving your badge and your certificate, you can also just click a button. The same way you click a button to put your badge on LinkedIn, you click a button and you join a directory.
I think that was a question I had on LinkedIn. I don't know if it was to you, Leah, or someone else that was part of the ChromeOS exam, is that, how can I show, because there's a Google Cloud, architect directory, the collaboration engineers are there. That was my question on LinkedIn to you or someone else, was when will that be part of that directory?
Must have been maybe someone on our team. If I could have it yesterday, I would. Let me just say, it's something that wakes me up in the middle of the night because it's not hard to turn on. We were candidly just a bit, under-resourced when we were getting this exam out to market. So we had to focus on user experience and getting multiple choice and lab out there in a fair and at the professional level. So that was first and foremost. Now we're circling back on, what's the scaled opportunity here? And the directory is one. It's not a heavy lift. We're working with our teams right now to get that turned on. I thought I could get it done in 2 weeks' time. It might just take another 30 days. So know that's coming. For folks who go to take the exam, at some point you'll just, when you earn your certificate, like posting to LinkedIn, there'll be a button that says just auto-populate into this directory. So it'll be very seamless. For folks who have already taken the exam, we will reach out to you and say, here's a directory, please put yourself in it. So we'll absolutely make sure we capture everyone. That's the easy lift. The heavy lift is building a community where administrators are self-serving. And we're looking at different platforms right now where we can drive the best experience. So we're actually open to feedback if folks here have any, either now or send it along to Jesse, myself, Steve, Saj. What would the best community look like? Because on the one hand, we'd love for administrators to be able to answer questions amongst themselves, right? How cool would that be? You don't have to find a Googler. You don't have to Google it. You don't have to find some article and read 9,000 words to find that one thing you need. How cool would it be if you could just say, oh, here's an administrator who's certified right in my city, frankly, and I'm going to ping this individual and ask them. So that's one goal. And then the other is, how do we connect partners and customers through this community? So make it public in the sense of a individual at a school or a business wants to move to Chromebooks, isn't sure how to get started, and stumbles upon this community of certified individuals. And that would include certainly partners and customers, but either they get advice from another customer, which sometimes we just want that peer advice, or maybe they find a partner who can help them with a POC and get them set up on Admin Console. And with that, also continue to help drive, some services around the engagement and show that potential customer that they're a trusted, advisor in this space. So that one is going to take a little bit longer, hoping to launch something by the end of this year, truly because we're trying to define what would the most ideal community do. We've seen a lot of communities out there where it either requires a lot of involvement from Google, which reduces the whole point of driving this self-serving community, or where it doesn't feel engaged enough for people to be there. So definitely open to feedback from this group here or folks on the live stream. Like, what would you want to see in the community? Because we're in that time right now where we're defining the parameters and really excited to deliver. That'll be, I think, one of my team's biggest accomplishments this year if we can get that done.
Is that something, are you thinking of, like, when you say community, is this something like the Google Cloud Connect community, like within like a sub part of that, or?
So I don't know that we would.
Of?
So to be clear, this is a Google ChromeOS certification. It is not a Google Cloud certification on ChromeOS. So I just say that to mean where we can leverage the amazing infrastructure of our teammates at Google Cloud. Of course we will, because that makes it seamless for our teams to develop, but also for our users to experience. But I don't think it's likely that everything would sit together, if you will, because, we also have Android, right? They have certifications as well. And so when we think about the best place to put our community, we have to think about what's the profile of someone taking this? What are the other certs they might be consuming? And then I think a lot about user experience. It's just ingrained in us at Google to respect the user at all costs. And then I was at Apple before, and it's the same thing there. So I think about, okay, what exists? And then what is the best thing we can do? Are they the same or are they different? And so we're really driven by giving the best experience. So I can't answer that question yet because we're not sure, but definitely open to feedback.
This has actually been a topic lately or recently in the Google Cloud Innovators program, of which I'm a member, because they sent out an email inviting us to a Discord, and the Discord was for developers, and there wasn't really anything for Workspace in there. So now I have a Discord, now I have a Slack community, now I have a forum, Google Cloud community. There's C2C, which is sort of Google, not really Google, is private, but is with Google involvement. And it'd be really nice if Google just had a chat product that they had built out to be able to, house all of these communities and give people access to that.
I know. Trust me, if I had $1 for every time I got that feedback, I'd retire. So I mean, I'm sure. But you have to understand, Google is a massive organization with so many products for so many different types of users. Students, general consumers, business, gamers, right? Like, we have so much happening. And so, but we hear the feedback loud and clear. Trust me, that's why first and foremost we're evaluating how do we work better with cloud or Android to make the experience seamless. But we also want to make sure that our ChromeOS administrators feel celebrated and recognized for their great work, and that they are engaging with other ChromeOS certified individuals at this professional level. So taking it all into consideration.
And as an additional level there, I would add, in terms of who's likely to be taking this certification, is Workspace admins. People who are in the dashboard are those exactly who are going to be using said dashboard the admin panel to be able to manage their devices. And one of the things that has been very, very critically missing historically in all of the Google communities is a big focus on a space where admins could connect with and discuss topics with each other as well as with Googlers for the really tricky things where, sometimes calling or chatting the Google Workspace support line just they're just not going to get it, or they're going to take us through 18 steps that we've done already.
Of
We're
course,
professionals.
of
We've
course.
been on support chat or calls 100 times before. We know the steps to take. We know likely what's causing it. And oftentimes, if we have a direct line to a Googler, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I heard about this from the other partner. 1 second, boom,
Right,
it's done,
right.
it's fixed," or something along those lines. And I can see here Anthony already in the chat saying, "Bingo." A lot of people who are interested in PGWA cert are going to also attempt ChromeOS admin and so on.
Yeah, I agree.
It's something that there's a ton of funding, there's a ton of development, there's a ton of manpower behind Google Cloud, and it's great, and I love to see it. I want to feel the love on the workspace side as well.
Feedback taken. I certainly will take into consideration that workspace piece, because I think you're spot on, right? If you're in the admin console, it's workspace, it's Chromebooks, it could be other devices. So we certainly want to make sure that we're providing that full experience. So I'm taking that note. So thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And Workspace is kind of the lifeblood that, drives into GCP and other areas, almost as like the iPhone is the entry drug into the Mac world, the organizations that are likely using GCP are likely also using Google Workspace.
Yes, of course.
And so it shouldn't be one or the other. It should be hand in hand. And I think that that's, as it continues to be built out, even Google Next, I'm deviating a little bit here, but even Google Next in the last, the first couple of years, there was hardly anything Workspace related. There were 40 sessions that were added the following year, and now it's like 50 or 60 sessions. So finally it's really feeling that getting some conversations around and whatnot and support.
Yeah.
But that community area has definitely been lacking. So appreciate any support you can.
Of course,
there.
No, absolutely, love the feedback, and I've taken a note here and I'm passing it along to the team who's actively assessing what kind of community we'll build. So thank you.
All right. Steve had mentioned on the professional side, I don't think we discussed this yet, if this is a credential that partners can use to meet their partner requirements.
So I'll start with some baseline on. I'll start with some baseline around requirements and pass it off to Saj to talk about the cert specifically. But for any partner listening, if you're part of the partner program or Partner Advantage, as it's called, to gain access to that program, there's a couple of things folks need to do first, and you need to earn credentials. I think it's 1 or 2 individuals at your organization has to earn 2 credentials, and they expire every 2 years. And they're sales or deployment credentials about certain products. So they're just online e-learnings, take about 90 minutes. You can pause, walk away, come back. You can have some notes. It's not a super high barrier to entry, if you will. So that's how you get into the partner program. Then from there, you can earn more credentials to help you increase your status. But the certification is to unlock something really specific, which I'll let Saj cover.
Yeah, the cert gets you to, on the Chrome side of things, it gives you the ability to unlock services. So you can become a service partner with us, which is new. Before you had to, go through a handful of GCP exams or workspace exams to do that. And now you have this route. As Leah mentioned, you have to hit a baseline of, I think 2 exams passed, but you can use this one to get halfway there. So great way to use it and get familiar with the product if you're planning to go, dive deeper into services on Chrome OS and build a practice for your customers.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you have further questions, Leah and Saj, what's the best way for people to ask?
Well, I think the website, first and foremost, ChromeOScertification.com, is a great place to learn about the exam. And there's also a form that you can submit to ask any questions that you may have. If you, so I'd really love to send people there. I think if you want to get in contact with us more directly, we can send an email alias along, Jesse, for your final notes.
Yeah. We can reach out to just reach out to Jesse or I. We can pass it along. And
the email alias is ChromeOS-certification at Google. But I just want people to be really self-serving, because everything you're gonna ask me is on the website. I can guarantee it. So I'll share it with this group here because it's been such a special podcast, and we're so grateful. But Honestly, ChromeOScertification.com it's got you covered.
It's definitely a self-explanatory domain, so appreciate those. Of course, everybody, as Steve said, you can all reach out to us either on Twitter or join the Slack and reach out to us on the Slack, which you can find links to on our website. I will be re-editing this later on to upload a higher quality video version. I noticed that Steve and Leah had a little bit of pixelation going on there, and not sure if there were any drops, but I'll be rechecking that. The feed has backups, so we can make sure that you get the highest quality version uploaded to the channel, as well as writing up a full show notes with all the resources mentioned during today's show. So make sure to please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get part of the YouTube partner program, and we have to hit 1,000 subs for that. So if you could just hit the subscribe button, appreciate that. Any last words before we wrap it up?
Just a massive thank you, and just go.
Steve, it sounded like you had a thought. No. Sorry.
I was just going to say a massive thank you for having us, and to everyone listening, just go take the exam. It's free. Why not? Check it out. Try it. And we're excited to help you along your journey and looking forward to welcome you to the professionally certified ChromeOS Administrator family. So thank you.
Yeah, I've always wanted to say
100%.
this, and I'll if it's okay, I'll say this now. Please like and subscribe. Jesse needs the followers. That's always a great way to do it. For those who are on LinkedIn, hashtag ChromeOS Certified. A lot of folks there. I'm pretty active there. A lot of Googlers are active there. A great way to ask questions. Like I said, if you need a Chromebook, you can find me on LinkedIn or on that thing, and I'll get a Chromebook in your hands so you can take this exam and hopefully pass it.
That is a huge offer. Thank you so much, Saj. Thank you so much, Leah. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And if you have more questions and want to share this with other folks on your team or on your socials, give me about 3 or 4 days, and I should have the higher quality version up and ready to go. So thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Jesse. Thank
Take
you,
care.
Steve.
Bye.